Blue Shadows in Norebro. I first see her as a shadow in the kitchen window over the courtyard. Not a face, just a movement, the kind that knows where the glasses are and when to turn off the faucet lest the secret creaking of the pipes reveal it. A hand brushes the edge of the kitchen table, and then she is gone, as quiet as the steam from my tea. It's early evening and the stone of Norebro draws the heat down into itself like a secret. Jonas has written that he's staying at the studio. A deadline, something about light and a staircase that runs like water. His messages have taken on a new tone lately, as if behind the words is a person I don't know, holding his elbow as he writes. I send a heart, not because I feel it, but because you keep engines running until you know if you want to keep going. My name is Sophie, and I make food for people who think they're just coming to eat. I'm a food stylist, and when I roll out my canvas and the light is right, people start talking about things they never thought they'd say out loud. Maybe because butter melting slowly on warm bread reminds them of being wanted. Maybe because the first glass of wine always tastes of truth. That night I don't cook. I am counting sounds. The chains of bicycles on the cobblestones. Someone coughing under the avocado tree in the yard. A television where someone laughs too loudly. And then again the little crackling sound of the faucet in our kitchen. The one I know because Jonas always turns it off too early and I always turn it off a little later, as if that's what saves us from something unspoken. I don't go up there. Instead, I sit down by the window with my notebook and try to write a letter to myself. Something about not becoming the person who makes tracks in the dust with a finger to see if someone has been there. Something about choosing to look. I only get to write. Be gentle, even when you say the hard things. And then my phone rings. Sarah from the magazine wants to move a take because their model has lost her voice. I say yes and hang up. And then I get up, go to the stairwell, feel the coolness outside as a relief, and stand still with my palm on our door. On the other side, someone is breathing. I can hear it because, after so many years, I know the difference between the sound of the apartment and that of a human. I don't turn the key. I put my forehead against the wood for a moment, as if the door could hear my prayer, and then I go back down. I don't clean myself up. I set the table. On the table I put an old tablecloth I inherited from my grandmother. It smells of summer cottage and night breeze. I take out two of our heavy glasses, the ones Jonas always says are too heavy to drink from, but which I insist on because they make me take every sip seriously. I cut the bread into lopsided slices and reach for the butter. My hands are perfectly still. My body is not. Jonas comes down when it's almost dark. He smells of wood and something sweet that isn't his. He sees me, sees the table, sees my note at the edge of the tablecloth which just says, "Sit down." I've learned that you don't always need questions to get to answers. He sits down. He puts the phone on the table, screen down, one finger still resting on the edge. A small, unnoticed ownership of what continues to throb inside the plastic. "How was your day?" he asks, his voice attentive in a way it hasn't been in a long time. It's almost what hurts the most. "I saw a shadow in our kitchen," I say. "She knew the faucet." He looks down at his hands. That's when he's at his most beautiful, when he's not playing the role of the one who knows what's going to happen but is just the body trapped in its own choice. He doesn't say her name. He says, "I don't know how I got here." And I understand that, even though I hate it. Paths are also made when you don't walk them. We're not talking about guilt, not yet. We're talking about the way an everyday life can turn into a windowless corridor. We're talking about the first time he didn't say it out loud, and the second, and the third, and when silence becomes a habit. I tell him I don't want to be a cop, I want to be human. He says he doesn't want to be the boy who always puts the stick on the forbidden yellow field to see how long it goes. Do you want to go? I ask. He takes a breath as if the air has become too heavy too. I don't know what I want, he says. All I know is that I'm tired of lying. Good, I say. Let's start there. We make a deal that's not in any book. He sleeps in the living room. I sleep in the bedroom. We talk every night for an hour, no less, no more. He says all the things that would otherwise drip out like lead, and I try to pick them up without dying from the weight. The first week I cry in the shower. The water is a hiding place I allow myself. I think of that woman with the sea in her scent, and I hate her with a gentleness that surprises me. I hate her because she has not invented anything. She just took what we didn't take care of. It is in the midst of this fragile wakefulness that Elias moves into the fourth floor. He is a potter, he tells me when we meet in the courtyard with bags from the greengrocer. His hands are rough, but his mouth is soft, and he smiles like someone who has learned to lose without getting hard. He borrows my ladder and returns it with a bag of figs in thanks. For the lines in your yard, he says, nodding towards the laundry hanging like notes on a line. I don't invite him up. I write his name in my notebook and draw a small bowl next to it. Some people have the kind of aura that says, there is space here, and you realize that this place can also be dangerous if you forget your direction. I don't tell Jonas about Elias. That would be a form of accounting that I can't use for anything. Instead, I tell him about how my heart slowed down for the first time in a long time when I was standing at the sink because Elia's voice had stopped something. Jonas listens without defending himself into a laugh. He says he understands and I believe him. Not because he's always believable, but because this is not the place to lie. We are at something clean, paradoxically enough. I start working at night, not out of escape, because the darkness is honest. I roll out canvases on the kitchen table, try out dishes that taste of rain and salt. I arrange a soup with mussels, and as I open a mussel that won't let go, I think that I look like it, that I need to be told it's safe before I let go. Elias sees the light from my kitchen when he comes home late from the workshop. He doesn't knock on the door, he sends a message. Your vapor seems to be thinking. I reply, come up if you promise to be quiet. He laughs, writes silence is my strong point, and 3 minutes later he's standing in the doorway with his jacket over his arm. He leans against the frame, not taking in the room. I hand him a bowl with the butter already working at the edge. He eats slowly. It's the most erotic thing I've seen in a long time, and neither of us touches anything that isn't glass or ceramic. I don't want to be your secret, he says as he leaves, but I can be your slow one. Yes, I think. Yes to the slowness. Yes to not breaking my body over a demand it doesn't know. Jonas asks me the next night what I dream. I tell him a dream where I'm walking along a beach and all the stones have our initials on them. I pick one up and it has my name alone and the stone is warmer than the others. Can I be that kind of stone? He asks. It requires that you put your own in my hand, I say, even the one that burns. He then tells me about the woman. Her name stays in his mouth like a button that doesn't quite fit in the buttonhole. I don't hurt anymore. I become more empty. It's a different kind of movement than the one I thought I was supposed to make. We live in this strange truth for weeks. I take Elias for walks without holding his hand. Jonas finds a therapist who likes to ask what a room smells like when you walk into it, and it turns out to be helpful. I find a rhythm with myself that doesn't constantly ask if I'm beautiful enough to stay. I buy a set of linen sheets so soft that in the morning I can't quite find my skin for texture alone. I start writing recipes that are really letters. To the one who forgot to eat, I call one of them. To the one who loves in shadows, another. And then one day I make a plan that is neither about revenge nor shame. It's about putting light where there has been darkness. I call it a dinner lab and invite a small team. My sister, our neighbor Sonia, who has seen more marriages than a town hall, an elderly couple from Third who always hold the door, and Jonah's. I also write to the woman. It takes me a whole day to formulate the invitation. You don't owe me anything, I write at the end. But you owe it to yourself to be in a place where nothing falls apart when you tell the truth. I press send, and my body turns on and off like an old tube light. They all come. I do simple things with an honest heart. Grilled artichokes you have to use your fingers for. Small potatoes with lemon and thyme, where the steam carries childhood with it. A salad with blood orange and bitter radicchio, because sweet and bitter are true neighbors. I lay napkins that I have ironed with the palm of my hand, not the iron. I leave my radio on the same channel, playing slow songs with no chorus, so that none of us will be tempted to sing along until we know the key. The woman's name is Lee. She enters with a look that asks both for forgiveness and not to be recognized. She is not beautiful in the way that articles are written about. She is beautiful as a mistake that turned out to be the right thing to do. She doesn't sit at the end, not next to Jonah's, not next to me. She sits between Sonia and the older couple, and she smiles at their hands as if they are hands she can learn something from. We eat the first course in silence. You can hear forks, you can hear someone say, "That's so simple," as people say when they mean, "I forgot that simplicity can be enough." And then I say, "This table is not a court, it's a table." Jonas looks at me, Lee looks down, and Sonia pours wine as if she was put on this earth to do just that. I ask them to tell me about what was lost without saying mistake. The older couple talks about the time when they almost only spoke in notes on the fridge. My sister talks about the year after the divorce when she thought she had to invent herself as if she was a new gadget that could do everything. Sonia says the worst thing she ever did was being right. We laugh. We don't cry. That's my biggest victory. Lee asks if she can say something, and I nod. I fell in love with what Sophie had left behind, she says, and I took it as if it was left over, but it wasn't. I wasn't hungry, I was empty. Her voice doesn't break. It just goes into a different key for a moment. Jonas says nothing, which is the bravest thing he does that night. After dessert, a creme brulee that cracks like good silence, people get up one by one and hug without getting sentimental. Lee stays as the last one. "I thought I was supposed to hate you," I say. "I thought I was going to hate you back," she says. We smile at each other as woman to woman without war. "Watch your hands," I say. "They look like they can carry a lot." "You too," she says, and then she's gone, just as she came, no braces, no spanking. Jonas and I clean up without choreography. At one point he leans against the kitchen table. "I can't promise I won't fail again," he says. "I can promise you that I promise to tell you before it becomes a mistake." I walk over to him and put my hand on the back of his neck. His skin here has always been my favorite. "I can't promise you that I'll stay," I say. "I can promise you to stay as long as the truth can stand here and breathe between us." That night he still sleeps in the living room. I lie in the bedroom and let the rain tell my thoughts that they need not be finished. Shortly before morning, I'm woken up by what feels like light. It's just me opening my eyes the right way. I don't see Elias that week. It's not a punishment. It's a break I give myself because I don't want what he gives me to become a band-aid. He's sending me a message. "My turntable misses your laugh," I reply. "My pot misses your silences." We keep it that way, air in between, but not clarification as a threat. He understands. I feel it in what he doesn't write. A few weeks later, we're in his workshop. It's quiet, like in the belly of a whale. He shows me cups that are not afraid to be imperfect. I lift one, heavy at the bottom, light at the rim, and let my lip glide over the line of the glaze. It feels like a kiss that has yet to find its time. Elias stands behind me, not to take a seat, but to watch the light coming in through the high window. "May I?" he asks. I nod and his hands find my waist. There are clothes between us. and yet immediately a warmth I haven't felt in my body since before the word shadow took up permanent residence in my mouth. The way he kisses me is without haste. His mouth does not stand for its own story. It listens. He doesn't take off my shirt. He pulls it up just enough for his hand to write his name on my lower back without ink. I don't say his name out loud. It's already in my throat like a secret rhythm. When we finally lie down on the old couch in the corner, we do so without negotiating. Our bodies know that nothing needs to be proven. His finger traces a path from my temple to my jaw, and I close my eyes in a way that feels like taking in without losing ground. We fall asleep before anything comes to a conclusion. When I wake up, his jacket is over me. There is clay on my palms, and I stand up with a laugh that I can feel down to my ankles. At home, Jonas walks around the living room with a calmness that doesn't equal complacency. He makes coffee like he did when we were brand new and pours it into a glass, just because all the cups are in the sink. "We're halfway there," he says. "Halfway to what?" "To knowing which way a door opens." I smile, not because I know, but because it's blessed to be in a place where you can be in the middle of the sentence. We find a new form. It's not sensational. It's functional and beautiful at the same time. We talk about calendars and kisses. We talk about his therapy and my trips to the workshop. We make appointments that sound boring to people who watch movies for a living, but to us they are the manuals of love. Who changes the sheets when we put our phones in the bowl by the door, when we light a candle just because. One night I take the tablecloth from my grandmother off the table and put it over my shoulders like a shawl. Jonas sees it and walks over to me. He stands so close that his breath warms my neck. He doesn't put his hands on me until I put mine on his. We dance without music. Our feet find the old rhythm, which is not a copy but a rediscovery. He kisses my neck. I answer him, not with words but with the kind of sigh that means yes, like that, right here. We do nothing more that night. We go to bed separately and sleep heavier than we have in a long time. On my phone is a message from Lee. "I've given up my apartment. I want to see the sea more. Thank you for letting me see myself without cutting me to pieces." I reply, "Watch your feet. Sand can be a liar." She sends back a picture of her toes in the foam. I save it in a folder labeled "Evidence that gentleness works." Months pass. Elias and I love each other with the kind of love that can stand in a room with other things in it. Some nights he sleeps here. Some nights he rolls out my spine with his hands as if he could read what I've written with his body. We don't bring it out in front of anyone, not because we're ashamed, but because it's ours. Jonas and I decide to move apart for a while. We do it like adults who have learned to sit on the benches along the lakes without throwing stones. He finds a bright little apartment where the light falls on a floor that knows how to get warm. I stay in the courtyard, where the pigeons always walk around on Sundays, as if they have agreed to behave. We eat together once a week. Sometimes we go our separate ways after half an hour because we know when enough is enough. Sometimes we end up in my kitchen, where he leans against the table and I stand close to him, and we kiss like you kiss an opportunity. If you ask me now what revenge is, I would say it's living in a way where truth is not a guest but a resident. That there is a quiet victory in refusing the dramaturgy of shamelessness and instead choosing a slow dance with what hurts. To put the knife back in the drawer and take out the cutting board. To cut bread for a table that is as much mine as ours. When I cross Dronning Louise Bridge before sunrise, the water carries the breath of the city. I pull my coat tighter around me and think about the first shadow in our kitchen. She's probably still somewhere in the city in another window. I wish her luck. And I wish myself what I now know I deserve. Kisses that taste of yes, hands that know what it means to hold a back, words that come before actions go wrong. At home, I open the window. The morning light streaks across the floor. I put the water on, and while it warms, I write the recipe I have avoided, for the one who stayed and for the one who left. The ingredients are simple: time, air, truth, and butter, always butter. I write in the margin, be gentle, even when you say the hard things. And as the water sizzles and I pour it over my coffee, I think that I have finally learned to love in such a way that I can hear the door open without breaking. I take my cup into the hallway and walk the few steps down to the gate. Outside, the rain smells of metal and citrus. I stand in the doorway where the city begins and lift my collar. Elias sends a message. My turntable is ready. Jonas sends another. New plant in the living room. It's called Peace Lily. I think it's a cliché. I reply to both. I choose both, not as men, as traces of my own life that run on because I finally went along. And as I close the gate behind me and step out onto the cobblestones, I know that if a shadow puts her hands on my kitchen table again, she will know that the faucet may drip a little. It doesn't matter. I'm not afraid of the sound anymore. It sounds like time. It sounds like me.